Hello, algebra students. One of the things you have to be really good at when you're doing algebra is knowing when it's possible to solve and when it's not. And as we talked about, that's all about whether we have an expression or we have an equation. So let's take a look at these examples. It says for each of the following, determine whether it is an expression or an equation. If it is an equation, solve it. Now, you guys are lovely. For me, every time you see a letter, you want to solve. You want to try to figure out what the letter is equal to. But take a look at this first example here. It says 9 plus r squared. Or take 9 and add it with some number r squared. Now, that's interesting that I'm supposed to add 9 to some r squared. However, it gives me no clues about what r is. This is just an expression. There's no relationship like, oh, this whole thing is equal to 15 or any other clues to give me something to work with to try to figure out what r is. Therefore, this is just an expression. It cannot be solved. Compare that to the next one. We see not 9 plus r squared, but in this case, 9 equals r squared. I'm giving you some kind of a clue about r. No, I don't currently know what r is, but I know what happens if you square r, you get 9. This is an equation. We have an expression equal to another expression, two equivalent expressions. This is an equation, which means you can solve it. So let's do that. 9 equals r squared. Not solved yet because r is not alone. There is something hanging out, not really a number in this case, an operation, a square. But we can get rid of a square by doing the opposite of square. The opposite of square is square root. I can do whatever I want as long as I do it to both sides of the equation. Now you're going to learn in college to put a plus or a minus here because this thing actually results in two answers, a positive or a negative. But for the GED, let's just deal with the positive answers. So square and square root cancel, leaving r alone just like I wanted. And of course, the square root of 9 is 3 or negative 3. I just don't want you guys to get into college and say, Kate never told me about that. I told you, okay? It could be negative 2. But for the GED, we're just going to go ahead and say 3 is r is a perfectly fine solution, and we're good to go. All right, now look at the next example now. 9r squared. A lot of students, just to make sense of this, kind of want to like visually shove in an equal sign with their eyeballs. But you guys, there's no equal sign there. So what's happening here? It says 9 is multiplying by some unknown r squared. Okay, that's interesting information, but it's just an expression. There's no clues. There's no equal something else. I don't have an equation. I don't have a relationship. I cannot solve. All right, lovely. Well, I think this is a little simple, maybe almost too simple, but what I really want from you guys is just to visually recognize, oh, something I can solve, and oh, can't solve this. So you know when to stop and not do all kinds of nonsense like some confused students do. All right, you guys, strong work. Happy learning.